just put that together is a great example of how the chakra anatomy and alchemy works. It's not so segmented. It does flow together, and it just kind of automatically initiates the next phase. So when we open up our spirit, which is the crown chakra, to get insight from our higher purpose, from our, your God, your Jehovah, your Yahweh, whatever that higher knowing is for you, whatever you call it. Jesus and I are great friends. Jesus and me, I got to go back to take another English class. For real, but we're really great friends, so I understand what you're talking about, getting that insight and then letting it flow to learning how to balance. So, I can totally relate to opening up my spirit to asking the correct direction to go for my businesses. And from that, it automatically taught me how to balance my budget and to come up with a budget when I never had a budget before. And I think that really ties into being prepared, wanting an elephant diet. I'm just summarizing what you said, when you only have the belly of an ant. I wanted so many great things, but to be a multi-billionaire, you need to know how to budget your money and manage it, And so how does this flow into getting inspired for creativity for you?
Well, and see, everyone's different. For me, the way that I figured out that was one of my passions, because I can sit there and do it for hours and get lost in it. And that was one of my key things as a teenager. My parents had gotten a architectural desk for me, and I would just design and just play around. And then what had happened is I seen my grandfather, my dad, do construction and run construction companies, own their own construction company at one time, and they were working so hard. And they always told me, they said, "You don't want to work this hard." And I'm sitting there and I'm working hard with them, which through that I built my work ethic. But I said, you know what? I want to design and do what before it gets to this point. I want to be behind the desk, so to speak. I don't want to be putting this house together in the hot weather or whatever. When I can use my brain to create it. Not saying that there's less value in that, because the architect or the designer is only as good or can only implement his design through construction and through those people who work in that field, and they're excellent resources. But it was just like, I wanted to see the other side, and I fell in love with it. And it's that ability where you have a clean slate, and then you're able to somehow, it just happens. When I get on the board and I start evolution of the design comes to play, it's just amazing how it evolves from nothing. And I fell in love with that process. And the first time I really truly this is it was my sophomore and junior year at the University of Illinois in Champaign. And one of the projects where just get anything and put it together or figure it out and design something. So I got some bark from outside, and I laid those pieces of bark down on the table somehow and stacked them. And from that, I designed a building. And that was what I like to do. I like to just let the mind explore. And that's the way that, that's the gift I believe that God's given me.
Wow. Okay, man, I want to dig into this. We're going to take a short commercial break. And then when we come back from this commercial break, I would really like to hear how you get yourself, because as a creator, sometimes I go through creative blocks. And I don't know if that happens to you, but when we come back from the break, I'd like to know how you work through your creative blocks to get that flow going again. Because as an architect, I know you have to have ideas, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So we'll be right back and after this short message. This is a new life, a new day, healing your body the Ganoderma way. Organogold Ganoderma. Think of it, an ancient herbal healing secret from the Wui Mountains of China. Ganoderma is an ancient mushroom hidden in your daily activities. We've got warm gourmet coffee, or you can take the spores directly. So many different methods that you can learn on sipog.myorganogold.com. Discover how you can heal your body, rejuvenate your cells, and become brand new and feel good with Organogold's Ganoderma. This is a new life, a new day, healing our body the Ganoderma way. sipog.myorganogold.com. Okay, we're back. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's dig right back into how you get yourself unblocked to get your creativity flowing.
Yeah, so, I mean, it does happen. And actually, I'm very nervous before I hit the design board. Because you just don't, you go into it and you don't necessarily know. But what I know, at least for me, I at least program. I kind of program what I want, or the spaces that I would need, I guess, the basic requirements. So as something that I would suggest as a creator in anything, just having that main idea, or wherever you have that you want to get across or convey through that design, maybe just looking at that, and it could be as simple as magnitude or focus or anything that you want to convey through whatever you're designing. If you kind of focus on that and then let your mind go. The thing is, the biggest stumbling block for me is just starting. And once you start, your mind and what you're trying to do, it'll come. And that's always what happens with me. Is I'm so afraid to start because I don't really know what I'm going to design, how it's going to come out. And once I block those things out and just focus on what I want to convey, then once I hit that board, what I'm conveying will spill out.
Wow, that is such great advice. That is really, really great advice, because I know what that's like to have, the nervousness of being able to get an idea out. But if we never start, it will never get done. Nothing will happen if we don't start somewhere. So that's perfect advice, to just start somewhere and figure it out along the way. So, how has have you always been creatively intuitive or had this spark, or is this something that you taught yourself over time?
I would say it's always been a curiosity. The evolution of designing and finding different methods, that was learned, but that ideal of the creativity or wanting to know or wanting to create something from nothing has always kind of been there, but the methods and how you go about doing that, you can learn.
That's great. And so did you get the bulk of your learning from school, or did you do extracurricular learning, or how did you get the knowledge you needed to create?
No, absolutely. Well, most of it, like I said, the method, so to speak, came from through school. But not even that. A lot of times I was forced. So if I wanted to learn something, then I have to read about it around. So like I use a lot of different design programs. So most of those design programs, they never taught us. It's something that you have to play around, you kind of learn, and then you kind of figure that out. But the ideal of, like I said, just the creative source, you can be creative in so many things. And that's what I don't think people may forget, is that even if you're gardening, you can be creative in whatever way you choose to garden or whatever method you want to use. You can be creative in something just as simple as cleaning up. The creativity is not necessarily in my opinion, the creativity is not necessarily confined to the output or to the result of your creativity, more so to receive when you're creative. If that makes sense. It's more so the process that you're going through that is creative, and what you're feeling when you're doing that versus what's the end result. For example, you may start a pottery class. You're being creative by just what you're doing, but the output may be something you can't even tell what it is, right?
Right.
But does that make you less creative than someone who can create a vase?
No, not at all.
So to answer your question, I think a lot of times that source or that ability to be creative is truly you just experimenting with different ideals and ways to go about doing things.
Okay. And that's really great advice, too, because I know a lot of us probably get used to just doing the same thing every day. You know, there's a quote, I can't remember exactly who says it, but insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And sometimes just what we need to balance the other chakras, to balance the other areas in our life, is a change in our daily routines, a change in our daily activities, a change in our creativity sources. So that's absolutely perfect. So if we're trying to remove a block from one area, maybe it's a sign to try something new. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And one of the things I've heard from a speaker that I listened to, Les Brown, I believe, he said, make it okay to fail. And this is what really got me. He said, make it okay to fail. You don't have to be great to get started, but you must start to be great.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where you can't be afraid to try new things. Just like you're saying, you can't be afraid to step outside the box, to step outside what the world considers the way to go. Because if you think of all or the creators or the inventors out here in the world, or those who are well known for their creativity, they had to go against what was status quo. So don't be afraid. Just like you said, don't be afraid to do things differently, to try different things, because you never know what you may come upon.
That is so true. And what I've learned from trying new things, not only does it help me learn not to be afraid of myself, not to be afraid of success, but in trying new things, it actually sparks the idea that links me to the next phase of where I need to go. For instance, I've started a new radio show called Creative Soul Live, which I would love for you to join us. And it's just talking about all creativity, and it's you can actually show how you create. It's a really dope show that I'd love to have you back on. But in the midst of trying to get that started, I had a block, and I had to do something completely non-related for the idea to come together for the new show. And so trying new things actually will probably spark and open doors to get you to the path that you think that you really wanted to be on in the first place. So I want to dig back into the root chakra. And let's talk about stability and security. What are some practices that you have in your life to keep yourself grounded with stability and security?
I'm like I said, I'm really huge on quotes, and one of the things that I write down, I go through kind of a list of I got a list of note cards that I have that has Matthew 7:7 on the front, asking you shall be given unto you, seeking you shall find, knocking it shall be opened unto you. And on the back of one of those cards, it says, I must be willing to do today what others won't, to have things tomorrow that others won't have. So and to answer your question, it comes down to discipline.